All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here today on Monday night, 9 p.m. Today, right here, I have my special guest. His name is Asher, founder of Revenue Journey. And some of you may have seen him on some YouTube videos before, just like myself. Actually, I haven't heard of Asher before until this year. In fact, I've seen some of his interviews with a few of these creators online, talking about business, talking about life, talking about finance, and sometimes even sharing his own personal finance journey and also how he quit his job and or why he quit his job. So I felt that his story was very interesting, very inspiring, and also very similar to mine, which is why I brought him tonight on my live stream. Asher, please tell us about yourself more and what what about your story that really you want to share to other people.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Chris. Firstly, I would like to say to all the audience who's listening, I told you before, like it's quite funny because I've also never really spoken to you before, but as someone who also tried to maximize his credit card miles or everything, I feel like I've seen most of your videos before. Time to time, I always come back. So it's just quite funny and interesting that I'm finally like sort of speaking to you. So thanks for having me. But in regards to a quick introduction of myself, of course, I'm Asher. Right now, I'm running my what I call my solo virtual consulting business. Essentially, solo person. Right now, just one person. I consult on a particular software called Clay for different B2B teams who want to best utilize this software and get results for their team. So my job is virtual as well, which is why there's the word virtual, right? And I would say the main crux or main reason why we are chatting is because I've been on quite a few other podcasts as well as videos on YouTube. And the whole topic is around quitting my corporate job. Yeah. And for some reason, this seems to really resonate with a lot of Singaporeans because I think Singapore is such a stressful environment sometimes. Everybody who works their corporate job feels like, what's out there? You know, yes, I'm earning not too bad. Or maybe some people, they may say, hey, I'm not working, I'm not earning that well. Maybe I could go out there and, try to fight for myself. And Singapore being a place where we have good access to education, good access to, I would say, social media, we all, I think, internally have some kind of feeling where we want to achieve more. You know, we are a high striving kind of society, right? So most of these podcasts I'm in is really about me sharing my journey on why I decided to quit what I call a relatively high paying salary job to decide to start my business. And I'm sure we can go into more of that later.
Definitely. Yeah, I think before we get on this context of a high paying job, would you mind sharing some numbers or on your end, right? What do you mean by a high paying job or what are the numbers we are looking at? Because everyone has a very different definition. And I remember 2 years back in 2023, I also published a video on me quitting my job to do YouTube full time. And back then, the environment was rather different because back then the big companies, the tech companies, they were all having some kind of restructuring. They're laying off thousands of workers. That was back in 2023. And 2025, 2 years later, we are seeing the same trend back again. And right now, it's even worse because we have the competition and threat from AI. And then all these fresh grads are just, struggling to look for jobs in our economy. And now that this quitting your job to start the business thing is getting all these buzzwords again. So Asher, share with us like what were your thoughts or what were the exact numbers that before you quit the job even.
Yeah. I'll share maybe firstly personal thoughts on what is a high paying job. I think that is probably for everyone else to have their own definition because some people could say 4K is high, 5K is high. It depends on your living expenses, right? But when it comes to my numbers, I'll give a range, right? What I did, at least for 5 years in the corporate world, was a software sales representative. So I was selling software to different businesses across APAC. Sometimes it could be Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, across this different region, right? My job was simple. My job was I have a quota, I have a target, I have a software that the company has developed. My job is go out there to do BD, like business development, or to sell and to close deals. So it was essentially a sales job. In terms of range, starting point when you're starting, let's say we call what we call a sales development representative in the software as a service industry, you have this concept OTE. OTE meaning it's a yearly number or salary that's given to you. There's a certain percentage that goes to base. There's a certain percentage that goes to commission.
Yeah,
So let's
before we
give you
go
an
deeper,
example.
does OTE means on target earnings?
Yes, correct. That's on
Okay.
target earnings. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's take my latest role. Right? I was an account executive. It's a fancy word for being a sales rep. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the industry average, let's say you're starting with small medium businesses, SMB. The range for OTEs is anywhere from on the low end, 110, 120K per year, up to maybe 180K. So imagine 20K, which means every month you're about 10K lah. 10K of that, and normally the split is 50-50. So 50% of that is base, 50% of that is if you hit your quota, let's say 100%, no more, no less, then you get the next 50%. So again, to keep it simple in numbers, if I say, hey, today, Chris, I'm paying you 120K SGD in terms of OTE, divide by 12, every month you are paid 10K. 5K of that is guaranteed, confirmed. But
Okay.
another 5K, you need to hit the quota. Which quota, hard to say. Every company is slightly different, so I won't go into that. But you can say, yeah, 5K a month base, that's our low end. When I was doing it, I was what we call a mid-market AE. So that range is probably anywhere from, on the low end, 165K to maybe 250 to 60K. OTE,
Okay.
50-50 split as well.
Right. Before we go even deeper, because it sounds like a lot of numbers, but we also need to know your context. Asher, how old are you this year?
I'm going to hit 30.
Okay, so you're going to be 30 in 2025 and you're making like 100 plus K or even up to 200K per annum. So that's considered super high income lah in my sense. Okay, so I think to give the viewers a little bit of context. So if we are looking at just a medium income role, 5.5K by 30, I think that is what most people would try to benchmark with the medium pay. So Asher coming from a sales background in AE accounts executive, I think that's considered a very high salary lah. So even with a high salary, he also left his job. And I think that is what is interesting because when I left my job, I was still a 5-figure earner. So I did not quit a 6-figure job. I quit a 5-figure job. So to me, that is an easier jump. Okay, I have less to give up. But for you, it's a 6-figure, right? 100K to 200K. Walk us through, what were your thoughts like? Why would you even give it up?
Yeah. I would like to give a bit more context, right? I always believe life is about trade-offs. You want something, you have to give up something. So let's say I'm getting paid a higher amount. What is required of me? Number one, working long hours, right? If your client wants to close the deal this month, this thing, they take the priority. And secondly, it's stress, right? Because as you know, the sales job, yes, I say so nice about, wow, minimally you're paid 5K a month, just base, and then you get commission. Sounds nice. But what nobody talks about is, okay, what if 3 months in a row you don't hit your numbers? You may get into what we call performance improvement plan PIP. And also, in my previous job, there's a lot of travel. And when I talk about frequency of travel, I'm talking about traveling at least every 2 to 3 weeks, I would be traveling. And I recall quite clearly, there was one period where it was close to my wedding. I got married last year, right? So it was close to my wedding back then. And my wedding was this date. And I remember starting 4 weeks before, I had to travel to Philippines. And then 3 weeks before, I had to travel to Hong Kong. And then 2 weeks before, I traveled to Malaysia. So it was week after week after week. I had 1 week to rest, my wedding, had my wedding, and the week after, I had to travel to Malaysia again. So there's a lot of these things, and you can't say no, right? Because again, it's a sales job.
Yeah.
You have to go when your company want you to go. You have to go when you have a deal waiting for you to close. That's the trade-off. And as I share all of this, it's kind of alluding to the fact on why I quit, right? I would say two simple reasons. I always tell people there's the pull reason and there's the push factor. The push factor were all the things I mentioned to you. I was tired, traveling a lot. It's not sustainable for a lifestyle, I feel. But more importantly, it came to a point where I started to think to myself, okay, 2 to 3 years now, what do I want to do? I want to have a kid. I want to have a baby. But if I stayed on as a sales person, chances are the amount of travel will still remain the same. I could argue maybe I could try to find a more virtual position, but that will also mean firstly it's limited, right? Because every salesperson come to a point where they don't like to travel anymore. There will definitely be. If you like travel, great. Maybe you are the 10-20% that likes to travel. So all good to you, right? But from what I know, a lot of salespeople, when it comes to a certain age, they really don't like to travel already. So imagine if everybody is fighting for that virtual only role, which there are, by the way, not saying that there isn't. Competition is tough. And what if you can't get it? Then you're stuck. So that was those were some of the push factors, right? I just didn't want to live my life traveling and not being able to be there for my kid, be at home. I like to be at home. I'm quite a homebody. That was the push factor. The pull factor was just the fact that I always wanted to do my own thing. And again, we talk about what were the triggers to want to start my own entrepreneurship journey, right? I imagine it's probably something you can relate to as well. That was for me. And it was probably also about timing. If I don't do it now, when? Because there is what you call, there's a point where there's too much opportunity cost, right? If you don't do it
Yes.
now when you have commitments, how you do it? But yeah, that's for me. I don't know, Chris, is it the same for you? Do you also have push and pull factor?
Okay, I think my push and pull factor was much more simplistic. My role didn't require me to travel, so that is not an issue. I think back then when I started the YouTube channel, it was a side hustle, right? So a side hustle is very easy to manage. So there is no like KPI. If I want to do, then I do. If I don't want to do, then that's it. I will just rely on my full-time job. So it comes to a point when the side hustle is making enough, right? Enough to match the full-time pay because my pay is not very high back then. So it was easy to match. So it comes a thought where, can I like quit the job and then scale this side hustle full time? Would that means I could 2x the side hustle income? Okay, so that was more from a revenue or business income perspective. The other perspective is that I think at one point in life, especially when you go into your 30s, you kind of get tired about um, people telling you what to do. Okay, I think
Mm-hmm.
in your 20s still okay because you just graduated. You are very used to this system of taking orders from superiors and then working with people in your organization. But it comes to a point where actually you realize a lot of people you work with may not be the ones that you want to work with, and there are a lot of things in the corporate that you cannot control. And I'm very sure if you are in corporate right now, the viewers, there are people that you really do not want to work with, but you still have to work with. Okay, and I think for the younger folks lah, maybe their current role, they may not have business travels. So they kind of like over glamorize the business travel. Wow, you get to fly every week, every month. Wow, I want this kind of job. I want to clock my miles and then stay in five-star hotels, and like the honey money every time go lounge, first class flight, business class. All these I only do after I started my YouTube, by the way. But people tend to over glamorize the business travel, but because it's only hotel to office to client side, back to hotel, sleep, go back to client side, go to office. Okay, there's no personal travel thing unless you extend the travel, right? So I think if you haven't experienced business travel at a long frequency, you would probably not understand what Asher is going through because he sees his family members even less than his colleagues or even his overseas colleagues or clients. I'm sure Asher you
Yeah.
can share more.
It's interesting you say that, but I would say this, right? Knowing what I know now, I feel like because I worked in corporate for 5 years, it gave me the experience. And during my 5 years in corporate, I did a lot of side hustles, right? I tried, as
Mm,
I mentioned to you, I tried podcasts before. I tried to start my own agency on the side before. Those were things that I feel is necessary for me to
yeah,
go through, such that when I was ready to make the jump completely, it wasn't as scary for me as compared to, I feel, and it's not that saying it's impossible, but there was a study I can't remember made by which VC firm, right? They are saying that the chances of you succeeding as an entrepreneur actually is the highest when you are mid 30s to 40s, because by then you have connections, you have everything. So even if you are younger folk, I would say it's okay. I used to glamorize the business travel. It was fun for the first 3 to 4 trips.
yes,
Just go for it, learn. I think these are things that really will give you the experience. And maybe if you really enjoy it, then good. But if you don't enjoy it, and like what Chris said, you don't like people telling you what to do at a certain point, you don't want to just fly wherever someone tell you to do it, then by then at least you have the experience, you maybe have the network, you maybe have the courage to go and do it really. Then that's a interesting thing. But by the way, Chris, you mentioned something. So you are saying your side hustle, you only hit once you match the pay, then you quit. That was kind of like your anchor.
KPI. Yeah, that was my personal KPI lah. Because back then I was also I don't come from a well-to-do family ma. So it's like I also don't want my parents to worry about me, right? So I do not want to disappoint them, right? So I at least make sure that I can 养活自己, I can feed myself first. And that was even before I got married. So I also have to prove to my parents-in-law, okay, so this potential son-in-law is not a good for nothing one, quit the
Yeah.
job and then go and do his own side thing and then yeah, what are they going to think about me, right? So that was the thinking behind it, lah. Which is why I wanted to make my financials stable first, right? So speaking of this financial stable, actually for you, right, what was your financial metric, or is there
Mm.
even one before you even quit the job? Because for somebody it may be like they reach a certain net worth target. For some people they just have emergency savings. Just what are your thoughts?
Mm. It's interesting that you mentioned that your KPI was okay. I need to match my side hustle must
Mm.
match or be close to my actual pay first. Personally, for me, that was my initial goal. Also, I wanted to
Ah,
get to a point where my side hustle reached my daily or monthly salary lah. I will tell you, it's a bit hard. Again, because it's a sales job, right? I'm traveling, so
yes.
you can imagine. Even when you travel, you try. Your boss wouldn't want you to travel on company time, which means when you take flights, right, it's 5 p.m. or maybe sometimes 6 p.m. Singapore time. Let's say I'm flying to Malaysia. By the time I reach there, it's maybe 7:30, and by the time I get to KLCC, check in a hotel, maybe 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Again, so I was working in a sense nighttime also, even though I'm not truly working, but the travel itself is part of work now. So
Okay.
it came to a point where I started asking myself, okay, can I ever match my salary? And truth be told, I think I'm quite fortunate. I was earning relatively high for that age group now. So it was quite hard. For me, it was different. All along, I wanted to do it. To be upfront, I didn't really have any very strong key financial metrics. But the starting point was okay, do I have at least 6 months of living expenses saved up as liquid money? Which means if I need to take out, I can take out right away. I don't need to wait for a brokerage to give it to me. We're talking liquid cash. And also the second thing was about timing. Timing meaning I had a point where I really wanted to just quit and just do it. But back then I was preparing for both my wedding as well as at the same time buying house. So timing was
Mm,
just not right. Yeah. So those
right.
two things might align, right? Timing as well as finances. But by the time I really decided, and I always tell this story quite funny to my friends, my original plan or timeline was to quit this year in August, which is 2 months
Ah,
ago. Because that would mean I would be in my corporate job for 1 year already. But I don't know, for some reason, as my wedding date, I got married around last year, December. But as my wedding date got closer and closer, right? Every single day I'll tell my now wife, back then fiance, I said, hey, can I don't quit in August? Can I quit in July? Can I quit in June? I remember close to the wedding date, I was telling her, can I quit in May? Even when we got married, the second night as we were in the hotel room, I was telling her, can I quit in April? So the timeline just kept pushing backwards and backwards.
ah,
Until when, even in honeymoon, I was telling her, oh, can I quit in, I don't know, just I just kept every night in our honeymoon, I spent about 30 minutes just on the bed, just thinking about it. All I knew is when I first came back to New Year, I went back to work. I had to fly to Malaysia in my second week. In a hotel, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. I went back, I tell my wife, okay, now is the time. So I officially quit in 7th of February. 6th of March was my last day.
wow. So
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 that was
there's a
the,
six months leap from
yeah.
August to February. And
Yeah,
I,
and
if I
to
recall correctly,
me,
it was around Chinese New Year period.
I think so. I cannot remember. Yeah, I believe so. So maybe I had some free time to go and start working on
Ah,
my sort of entrepreneurship journey lah. But back then, I knew that when I quit, I had a few things in place already. Number one, timing was right. Okay, married already, everything settled down, house settled, we paid it off already. Second thing was by then I already had 12 months of living expenses saved up. Somehow, one way or another, like, I already have that.
mm,
And again, cash, right? Thirdly, CPF wise, it was also fine. I had about 15 to 16 months of CPF. So technically speaking, if I really earn $0 for the next 12 months, I will survive. And I know my monthly expenses, right? And I think again, these are things that is important, right? Before you even quit, I'm very realistic. You're very realistic also, Chris, which is what's your metric, right? My metric is can I test things out for at least 3 months?
mm,
Minimum, or can I go at least 6 months? What if I really earn nothing for 6 months? And you must be
correct.
realistic yourself. You can be super confident, but what if just something happens you don't earn? And that
Oh,
was my situation.
my realistic metric is very realistic because I've been doing this on the site for 24 months, which is 2 years, right? From 2021 to
Mm,
2023. So I wanted to make sure first it was cash flow positive and it's profitable first. So it's a proven business model. There is a proof of concept. And should I quit the job, I'm able to scale it even further. So that is like the realistic target metric that I had lah.
Yeah. But actually, maybe one thing I want to ask, because again, the way we quit was different, right? Mine was I had no side hustle per se, but yours was side hustle. At any point, I'm just curious, because you said you did it for 2 years. At what point did you start to think like this could become my main hustle rather than it
Okay.
remaining a side thing?
It's probably like 1.5 years in, because the first years is like just building up, getting more exposure, then not earning much money, right? So the first year is more for building up the exposure and the skills, and building up the networks. So the 1.5 years in, that's when you start to monetize it even further, right? So 1.5 years, you start to see, this income, this monthly income, and then if we extrapolate it, we do some financial projections on it, it's actually sustainable by itself. So 1.5 months in, then that's when I start think, if I take it even serious, this could be a real thing, because when I start my channel, I give myself a 12 months deadline to, at least have see some financial gain, at least monetize a bit. Because there are a lot of channels out there where, they really do a lot of work on it, but it just didn't take off. Okay. And I'm also afraid that I become one of those channels. So I gave myself a 12-month deadline to at least be monetized first. Okay. So that was the first target.
Okay.
The second target was that what I told you earlier, where it can at least match the side hustle income sustainably for at least 12 months, right? So that was the second year's KPI.
Wonder.
And it happened so that 1.5 years in, after that, then I start, maybe can make it a business, a registered business, which is why I registered as a sole proprietor. Correct. So I thought, okay lah, do it as a one-person business, see how. And then straight away I registered a 3-year sole proprietor, because back then I haven't even learned the private limited stuff. That 3 months after being a sole proprietor, which is September already, right? So September, then I go and learn, because when I was sole proprietor, then I also go and learn more about corporate structure. Back then, no one really go and educate you about all this company structure and the government benefits one. It's out there. Yeah, it's very clearly out there, but no one will explain to you like what are the benefits of doing so, because everyone is just conditioned to keep it simple. You won't even think of scaling it. You are a one-person business, you don't have a team. There's so limited resources that you can do. Then that's when I learned, private limited. The tax numbers make sense. Should I go private limited instead? So I hovered over that thought lah. So until December, that was when I also threw my resignation letter in December. So during that 1 month notice period, then I read up aggressively about private limited and corporate structures. Then why no one is telling me all this information? Even though the information is there, but no one really educates it. There's the information there, but no one educates it. Yeah, which is why I set up my private limited in January 2023 after quitting the job. So it's like I was never unemployed. Right after I left the previous company as an employee, I joined my new company as an employee. So there was no gap in the CPF contributions. So that was the whole story behind the startup of Honey Money SG.
Okay. Also, your first point when you first started the channel, you had a goal to eventually monetize it. It was not like a hobby, and then you realize, oh, there's traction, and then I turn it. It was quite a simple goal that, okay, I want to try to monetize something.
Okay, to say monetize is more like how big you want it to monetize, right? Because some people, they just want side hustle. Okay, they can just do this forever. But to me, it's more like, if I don't see any results, then I will not do already, because this is not my first side hustle. I have many side hustles before that. Yeah, I started side hustle since 12 years old or 11 years old, selling Pokemon cards. So I also ventured into tuition, e-commerce, many other side hustles that young people do lah. But I think the most scalable one is this current one.
Okay,
And
okay, I see.
yeah. So with that, right, I also want to ask you, because I had quite a solid fundamental plan, which is on the salary side and the CPF side, like how I structured my employee structure from a previous company to my current company. But how about you? Because you quit your previous company as an employee, but now you are operating as a sole proprietor. So how is it on the salary side? How do you even pay yourself? And what is your CPF looking like right now since you are self-employed?
Yeah, so good question. At least for me, right, I can tell you upfront that I think you are much faster than me in terms of understanding all those tax thing. tax and the corporate structure. To be honest, how I started to learn about, okay, maybe I should consider going to private limited instead of sole prop is through definitely one of your channels. When I was searching up, suddenly yours pop up. But even prior to that, as I was talking to other business owners here and there, because sometimes, when you're a business owner, you start to get connected to a few other business owners here and there, right? They started talking about like, hey, Asher, so what's your current setup now? I said, oh, I'm so proud. Then that's where they start to throw numbers, right? Like, hey, what you do so proud? Do you know that you're taxed by your personal income? Or do you know if someone sue you? The typical stuff, like if someone sue your company, they are suing you. And that means your property, everything is liable. And people will start to throw out the numbers like, hey, your first 100K, and like I said, it's legal, right? It's out there. Your first 100K is a 4.5% tax. Compared to income tax, you're paying lesser. So those were the moments where I started to think about it. So the truthful answer to you is I'm now only in the process of thinking about it. But then I also realized, hey, yes, the information is out there. And this I have to give props to you. Like I literally, I was telling you, I was on your website yesterday, SoloBiz, and I was watching the introductory video.
Yeah.
The fact that you showcase a bit of numbers, like, okay, scenario 1, scenario 2, here's the difference in terms of tax you pay. That was quite interesting. That got me thinking like, okay, if I were to do it, I mean, I bought firstly for me in my personal life, I bought my own HDB. I would argue buying my own HDB is probably easier than trying to understand those tech stuff. Yeah, because I tried. And for me, I like to think I can read things quite well and understand it. But again,
Yeah.
as a business owner now, you sometimes start to think about how can I use money to trade for time. And if I can kind of have something to, and by the way, this is not an ad, right? This is really, I realize in Singapore, nobody really talks about it. All the videos have is US one. And I'm just like, I'm not US business. I need a Singaporean explaining to me. So that's my current situation in terms of my business. But again, still so but probably will change that in next few months.
Yeah, with regards to this is why I started SoloBiz, because no one really talks about it in Singapore context. And even if they do, it may not be very explanatory, right? There's no one guiding you on how to do it. And this is where my expertise come in, because I was previously an accountant, a chartered accountant. So I do all these taxes calculation before even AI was invented on my own business to make sure that it makes sense. So when the numbers start to make sense for your company, that's when I put the trigger. Which is why I also want to help other people who are not accounting trained, or people are very good in their business. They can do all the revenue they want, but if they don't know how to structure their company correctly, or the cost of ignorance, like I say, right, you don't know what you don't know. And this is why SoloBiz was created. It was a business to help business owners, like people like Asher, because he may not even know that there's this gap of knowledge that I didn't realize that it exists. Okay, and that's the scary part about doing business, because as much as you're good in your craft, I think all business owners ultimately know that they can never be good in everything. And if you're good in everything, you probably don't know where your weakness lies. And that's scary for business, because no one can be perfect in everything, even Elon Musk, right? I'm sure Elon Musk doesn't know how to play sports. Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Because bringing back to this, since we are on Honey Money SG, is a personal finance channel. Okay, and Asher, please share with us. We haven't covered on the HDB part yet, because my scenario is very different. Mine is a BTO, so it's like my grants could cover the entire down payment by itself. But for yourself, is it a BTO or a resale flat? Walk us through your housing plan, and after you quit your job, then how are you going to finance it?
Yeah. So again, maybe I'll also share a bit more context. I think definitely what you mentioned is very important, like understanding corporate structure, what I can save. But on the other end, I will also say, right, for me, at least when I started my business, I was all in on telling myself client acquisition, getting money in, getting revenue is number one. So I would say for the first 7 months, again, I started full time in my business 7th of March, right? So technically for the past 7 months, my focus on that. I believe there's a time and season for that as well. And then there's a time and season now where you need to start to stabilize things, go into the tech thing. But again, it doesn't mean they both can't run parallel at the same time, right? It just depends on your own focus and what is required for you. And for me, let's talk about the finance side, right? Again, I would say I was lucky. I was lucky that when I first started my first corporate job, I was in sales. By the way, my wife is also in sales. So you can imagine when we both chiong, when we both work hard. I mean, she transitioned to sales slightly later in the career now. But when you have two people who just work hard, not married, no kids, yeah, again, we are very lucky that we could kind of build up a good nest egg. And also the fact that the way we spend is not crazy. We don't spend crazy amount and everything. Only now when we are married, then we start to talk about like, oh, let's travel every quarter. That would be nice, as a
How
couple.
much are we
Because
looking at monthly running costs as a married couple?
monthly running costs, I would say, including the travels now, the last I checked, and by the way, when I say include, I'm including all in. So that means both of us, we give our parents pocket money, insurance, everything. I would say on a month-to-month basis, anywhere from per person, like myself, right? I need about 3.5 to 4K
Hmm.
all in. Yeah. And that's
Okay.
include, again, investment, pocket money, insurance, pay for quarterly travels, or before even quarterly travels, even lesser. But then back then the money was used to pay for renovation and all that. And just
Yeah.
to give a bit more context, our renovation was not too crazy. We got a resale flat, so we didn't get BTO. Our resale, we were quite lucky also that when we got it was around 790. And then we
Hmm.
got like firstly 80K grant. This was like, I can't remember the name, the 4-room 80K grant. And then we got 20K because proximity, right? We were close to our parents. So 100K grant. Okay, that's saved. And the agreement between me and my wife was, okay, when we get a house, we should not use cash at all. It means if we can pay the down payment with CPF, we should do that. And that's how we calculated now. So instead of starting out with where do we want to live, where we were more realistic. We were saying, okay, if we die, we just want to use CPF. Okay, let's combine our CPF. How much do we have? And what's the max that we can go? Because, down payment, I think 20%, 25%. I can't
Hmm.
remember the percentage really. But that was how we approached it. So again, for us, we were so lucky. We kind of negotiated and we didn't have to pay COB also. So no cash outlay at all. The only sort of cash we used were, renovation. No choice, you have to put cash. And wedding. Wedding, obviously, you cannot use CDC voucher or something. But that was our situation.
Yeah, nice. Because given that both of you are considered sales earning role and you're enjoying high income, a lot of people fall into the trap that they project their income for the next few years to be as good as now. So that is quite dangerous, which is why they always go for higher end properties or private properties. So um quite good for Asher lah. He didn't like live on the high, right? Because that's what people feed their own appetite. Like, I earn 6 figure now. I sure can afford a nicer property compared to a HDB, which is quite common in high income roles lah. So I would say
Yeah.
Asher is one of the more exceptional ones.
It's actually quite scary, because and I don't know if audience, you all have friends that are earning slightly higher than average. Maybe your friends who are in banking and all. I've seen cases where, and sometimes they don't even know it.
Hmm.
Sometimes this lifestyle just comes in. The one suddenly you get a car, a car that needs to pay 1.5 to 2K a month. That's a situation that suddenly now, if you want to take a risk, it's very hard. Because again, the difference between me and you was when I quit, I had zero clients yet. 7th of
Ah,
March was when I fully started. 6th of March was when I got my first client. So can you imagine, it was zero? But different situation, right? For me, I kind of knew the market. I did validation. I did side hustles before. So I kind of knew that there was an opportunity. It was just a matter of putting my time and energy into it. But imagine if I had to, on top of what I'm trying to pay now, I had to pay for car, I have to pay for a mortgage that is, let's say I got a 1.2 million
yeah,
condo. And I calculated before, technically can, but wow, the quality of life is almost as if you are living to pay off the house.
yeah,
Or you're living to pay off the car. And
correct.
I feel like it's really important to not get dragged into that lifestyle. Because like you, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, right? My parents had 4 kids. Both my parents, they don't have like education. Education is not really good.
Mm,
And maybe it was just inbuilt within me like that. Growing up, I just didn't really find the need to have luxury goods or anything. So I was lucky in that sense. But I really feel like it's a real trap that people can get into if they are not cognizant enough of that.
yeah, which is impressive because I guess in your field, or you have looked at your co-workers who are earning around the same pay range as you, they may fall into this trap as well. But you were disciplined enough not to follow some of their footsteps lah, which is why I think that is commendable. But at any point of time, do you feel like, eh, I may be making a wrong decision right now? Was there a point in time where you really thought so?
You mean when I'm doing my like current business, or
Uh, any point in time, even before you quit your job, or even after you
okay.
quit your job, because like you are giving up that high lifestyle for something else.
To me, actually, not funny enough, not as much. In fact, I thought it would be more of a risk for me to continue working my corporate job.
Yeah.
And again, very realistically, right? At least when I quit my job, or I was planning to quit my job, I had an agreement with my wife back then. Um, Firstly, I wanted to quit my job long ago, lah. Back then, we were still having wedding and housing stuff. When I told
So
her I want
you've
to quit my
been
job,
brainwashing her that mindset already. So
I think
she will not be shocked at that
she
point in time.
she all along knew, lah. But I remember
Ah,
there was a period when I was trying to juggle everything. So and I kind of neglected her. And then she asked me, "So am I your priority, or like is your career and your goals your priority?" Then that was when I said, "No, no, you're my priority." You know, we went through arguments and all that. But I did tell her lah back then that okay, I'm gonna pause everything aside. I'm just gonna work. I help us get the house done. Focus on marriage. But when the time comes and I want to go all in, will you support me? Yes. So again, when it came to really time to support me, she was all in already lah. But still, I needed to be responsible, right? Cannot just let the wife work and then I don't bring anything. So the agreement we had was two things, two milestones. Number one, within 3 months of me starting my business, I need to get at least 5K in revenue.
mm,
We kind of put it as a like just collect 5K lah, not say monthly recurring revenue. So that was the number one thing. But I also told her like, okay, if within sorry, first 3 months the milestone was if I collect $0, don't even get a single cent from a single client, I'll quit and then I'll go back and find a new job because that means I suck at it. In 6 months we need to hit at least 5K a month. That was our goal, very simple. And that also gave her some assurance that this is temporal. And like I said, I had 12 months of living expenses. The CPF could go on for 15, 16 months. That's fine. So to take 6 months to come and test out things, it's not too scary. Lah. And that was that was the target I gave myself as well, right? Because really, if within 6 months I don't even hit anywhere close to where I was earning, then what for? You know, what am I doing this for? Because you come to a point when you're married and all, and I would assume I'm not sure how you think about it, but I'm not young 20s anymore. You know, I'm
mm.
thinking of having a family, everything. I have to be very realistic. If I do take a risk, it's not for fun. One, you know, people love to talk about like, wow, startup is so fun, but you come to an age, it's like, hey, it's not for fun. Yeah, it can be fun, but must be very realistic. Can
Yeah,
you
it's not fun if you're losing money every month. I can assure you.
yeah, it's real, right? And that's why I say if I could choose and my day job wasn't that crazy, actually I would go your route, which is ensuring my side hustle match or closely match my day income, and then I quit because it's much less scary by then. I feel
Correct.
lah.
But that's an interesting point because I also came to a point where I realized if I was earning six figures, I probably wouldn't even quit my job because the jump is to me lah. Back then when I was much younger, the gap is too huge already. For me, five figure okay lah. My YouTube can cover it easily. But if you want me like 150 to 200K, I will really think twice and I may not even quit the job to do a side hustle. So that was that would be quite a different situation for me if it didn't turn out this way. So I don't know, life just happens like this.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because my friends they ask me like, actually, sales job is fine. What? I mean, you almost just okay. So when I quit, was money was not really on the top of my head already. Yes, I knew that I would be giving up those income, and you know, I will even say this right. You know, when you travel, you can just claim one. So all my hotel stay, all my food actually is all claimed by company lah. You know,
Mm,
tech company is very nice. So really, benefits wise, I would say it's good lah. But maybe it's just me lah. I don't know. I just didn't like the whole idea of having people in a sense have control over me to say that hey Asher, I want you to travel, you travel. Hey Asher, you better work harder this month because your numbers not looking great. And sometimes I'm just like, but the current market conditions is just not right. What do you want me to do? You know, there's only so much things. And when you are constantly being pressured like that, I don't know. For me, I just had a lot more confidence that okay, if I really full on 100% focus on it, I'm pretty sure I can earn maybe even better than I'm doing now, and I can maybe even work lesser hours. And this comes from experience, which is why in the beginning I said it's good to just go out there and work for a few years first. Because when you really see how B2B deals are made, you see how companies have money to give you for certain services and all, it gives you that confidence that, yeah, if I were to do it, yeah, I just need a client that pays me 3K a month, 2K a month, or then you multiply that number by number of clients, right? And you see how much you can take. Then you can very easily realize that, hey, if I want to, let's say, get 5K a month, let's say that's your current income now, you really just need 2 clients that pay you 2.5K a month. Is that too hard? Depends. For me, coming from a B2B world where deal sizes are larger, I realized, yeah, getting a company to pay you 2.5K is actually okay. It's not that crazy. You just need to be able to show value and show that they pay you 2.5, you can earn them another 25K, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. No, with regards, because I also want to ask you on your personal finance, especially towards investing. What kind of investor are you? Are you the kind that, since you're so analytical, good in sales, do you go and pick stocks, or are you like me? You like to do passive investing, and then you just go and do what you do best? Share with us your investment strategy.
Yeah, definitely very passive. I'm analytical, yes, but towards the things that I want to spend time in. So that's my business side of things. But when it comes to no, wait. Actually, I would say even when it comes to investing, it's analytical in a sense that I analyze so many things. I've analyzed and realized that if I really want to beat the market by trading, I need to spend a lot of time. So then I realized, okay, I'm just going to go S&P 500. So I'm more passive now. To me, it was when I first started, it was US ETF funds. I didn't even know about Ireland, domicile,
Mm.
all these things. Now I'm making the transition, but it was straightforward. S&P 500 every month. There was a period where, like for example, in the tech industry, I kind of knew some tech companies. Then maybe I may buy 1 or 2 stocks, but that's about it. If you see my portfolio, it's very safe. Like there's a scale, it's very safe scale because all is in ETF S&P 500.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
because in the previous job where you were higher income, right, it is very comfortable to put in a fixed sum of money every month. But now that you are starting a business, especially later you can ask me also lah, like
Yeah.
you don't know when your revenue is coming in one, and especially at the starting phase, then you suddenly switch from a fixed salary every month. You now become an unfixed salary or even zero salary the month you start your business. So what was the transition like for you during that phase?
For me, it was quite straightforward. It was telling myself, okay, for the first 6 months, maybe even first 9 months, everything just all in the business. But every investment, every revenue I earn back is invested back into a business. That was me. Maybe to some people, they'll be like, hey, but Asher, then your DCA how? You're not DCAing anymore. But again, to me, it's different for everybody, right? If you want to, then sure, you can make sure that you still DCA in. But for me, it was just, I tell myself that's a period where I just focus. I don't let anything else distract me. I don't think so much about everything. But now, as I mentioned, now because things have stabilized, which is why I'm looking into all this like, hey, how do I incorporate? How can I make sure that I pay myself a certain salary so that I can still apply credit cards and I can do all of it? That's my style. That's my style. And to be fair, for the past 3 to 4 years, I've been DCA a lot already. So I think taking a 6 months break is okay.
Yeah.
Again, up to you. But Chris, what about you? No, because yours is interesting. Yours, you technically still had the same income per se. I would
Yeah.
assume yours is still the same when
Yeah,
you
which is which
transition
is
to.
which is a very boring answer lah. So let me give an exciting answer. Okay, so the boring answer is that it didn't change, right? Because I was like, but indeed my income got cut in half because the first month it was the transition ma. So I don't have like additional new clients or new projects on top of it. So I would say the first 6 months I was working like 60, 70 hour weeks because now I have much more time. But it's a very different 60, 70 hour week versus corporate plus side hustle versus a full-on business. Because when you're building the business yourself, you're much more motivated. You don't mind working the longer hours because you know the payout will be there somewhere down the pipeline. So the
Yeah.
more exciting answer is that I think people overemphasize the investment in equity portion, but they forgot that your whole life is an investment. If for the fact that you are now investing in yourself, your skills, your network, your business, just that a lot of people put a lot of emphasis investing in the stock market, but they neglect other parts of life that they should invest in. With which also includes your family, because you mentioned, right, Asher, you quit your job to have more time to spend with family. That is something that money can never buy you back. And the other part is your skills and networks. If you were staying in your corporate job, you may not have the time to really go and invest in things outside of your work that you prefer to do. And that also means that you are now able to clinch more sales, more projects, because now you have the added extended networks. All these are not just focused on stock market investments. All these are your business and life investments that people rarely talk about because it is not measurable. Yeah, so this is the more exciting answer that I want to give rather than my boring answer.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think everybody like to talk about how when you invest in stocks it compounds, right? Every day you
Yeah,
DCA, but exactly like you said, I read a lot of books here and there as well, right? One of the things I read recently is this book by Dan Mantel called "Buy Back Your Time." Is this whole idea that actually skills are also something that compound. The more you become good at something, and it can be maybe a particular craft, or it could be the way you manage, or it could be whatever, it compounds as well. As you do it for more years, you put in more time, it compounds. Suddenly, people need to, a startup need to take a lot more time maybe to get their first client. But maybe for someone like you every day do it, you just get your first client quicker and all of that. So skill set is something that compounds. So I think that's something to think about as well, even as you, I guess, juggle this entrepreneurship and finance journey.
yeah. Later we answer some questions on business lah. But before that, I think I want to bring back to finance first. Do you have because I myself am a fire advocate, ikigai advocate, this kind of thing, financial independence, retire early. That has been my jam for the past few years. Do you personally like prescribe or subscribe to this kind of movement, the financial independence, retire early movement, or what are your thoughts about it? The price of freedom to you?
Well, what's your definition? So of course, fire. There's the acronym lah.
Yeah.
What's your definition first of fire, like to you? Or are you saying that, hey, here's the official definition, but what is your definition?
Yeah,
I'm
I
curious. I
actually
guess
subscribe
you're.
more to the meaning of ikigai, which is the freedom to do what I want. And yeah, there's these four quadrants, right? Like you do what the world needs, you do what you're good at, you do what you can be paid for, and you love what you're doing. Right. So I'm more subscribed to that motion. So in the earlier years of the corporate, definitely there was some point in time where I realized where I want like I don't want to work forever. But then as I move or shifted towards my own hustle, my own business, then I realized, business can be quite fun, right? And I love engaging my community. I love like meeting like-minded people like yourself and others who I have not met yet. And this can only happen if I stay in business. If I just suddenly stop my YouTube channel and my other businesses, then I would never have opportunity to meet all these people that I want to meet. Because all this while, when I was just a corporate employee, I'm just looking through people's screen. These people are very impressive. But who am I to talk to them? And then now I'm the one asking people to come on my channel. Then I talk to them. And then sometimes, like last week, I met some people at the City Personal Finance Festival. These are people I've watched for so many years before I even started my channel. So this would not have been possible when if I still stuck to my corporate job and not done anything yet. So I realized that actually this whole retire early thing is very subjective, right? Some people just think that you don't want to work forever, but some people would think that maybe there's a way to scale it back and also keep that professionalism, but you just don't work so many hours lah. So this is what I'm also moving towards with solo biz as well. So this is the current mindset that I have.
Understood. I would say mine closely resembles yours as well. I read Ikigai also, by the way.
Mm,
That's also one of the books I started reading recently. And similar in a sense that at least for now, I think I can still work per se, or like I think my mind will still be sharp for the next 30 to 40 years. I probably don't want to stop working. And I know of, sadly and unfortunately, some elderly who, when they stop work, and it's a real thing, right? When they stop work, all of a sudden their mind and their body just kind of shuts down because the body is not used to this kind of like no movement, no thinking. I think it affects health in a sense. So as long as I can still work, I will work. The question is then what kind of work? Yeah, that's the question I ask myself, right? If I can build my business, right now I'm still trading time for money. I'm working
mm,
for a client, I need to do a project, I need to trade time for money. But the second pillar is really trading money for time, right? Where that means, okay, either you become more highly paid, that means you get the same amount per month, but you're
mm.
working lesser hours, or you hire people, right? Those are typically two ways. So now I'm starting to think about that because now I'm still working. I would say, yeah, in the beginning, it was quite crazy also, like maybe 55 at the minimum to sometimes 70 hours. Now, at least it's not that bad. I would say maybe 45, 50 hours on some weeks, but I don't have to work Saturday, Sundays, right? I just tell myself I can work.
Yeah.
Then the next step is, okay, how can I maybe earn the same amount, but work 30 hours? Or, okay, increase my salary first, get to the amount I want, and then still work 40 hours, then so on and so forth. I look at it as a journey, lah, and every step of the way requires some kind of leveling up in terms of mindset and skill set. But
Yeah.
that's my situation, lah. And lastly, if I come to a point where I just want, maybe if I just say, okay, 3 months or maybe 2 months I want to be away, or 1 month I want to be away, I can, lah. That's also a dream, lah. So
Yeah.
that's my kind of mindset. Similar to you, I would say.
Okay, that's good because I think what audience want, I can kind of, if I'm viewing this as an audience lah, because we have been sharing so many numbers. Actually, are you okay to share like after like 6 months of doing your business, how much revenue are we pulling in and how much are the costs? Because people may not understand how a
Mm.
business really work. They think like we take in 7K means we every month earn 7K. So
Yeah.
how, yeah, walk us through the numbers. How much are we looking at?
I'm happy to share a bit of range. Lah. Yeah. I always look at, there's really only three things I look at when I'm running my business: revenue, cost, and then what minus away what's the profit. Lah. The profit is the key number I look at because that's actually how much money I take back. So I would say over the past 7 months, I would say on a monthly basis, I'm probably anywhere from SGD, lah, anywhere from maybe 7K to 10K revenue.
Hmm.
That's average across 7 months, right? Obviously, the past few months have been slightly better, lah. But in terms of cost, in the beginning, my cost was high. My cost was maybe 40 to 40%. Yeah.
And
So
what
let's
was
say
the
I
cost
earn
usually?
subscription. It was mainly like because mine is virtual, right? It was subscription, buying of all these different software and tools required to run the business. Not just run the business, but to fulfill for client projects, because different client projects have different requirements. Yeah. Then, and this is one example when I say, right, that you start to change your model. Okay, well, I'm working so much hours. How can I earn more but work the same amount of hours? So that could mean changing my business model, for example. Now I'm in a much better state where I'm around 85 to 90% profit margin already. Means because now I'm a consultant, right? Back then I was doing like the delivery and everything. So you can imagine the cost is quite high. But now I'm more like a consultant, implementation person. All I'm trading is my time. I have my like subscription, like Notion, Slack, all of these different productivity tools, right? Which I'm sure you have. But where client pay me is really for my time. And software, everything I use most of the time is use theirs. Or I may use mine, but I say, hey, you need to pay me if I use mine. So I'm now at this, I would say, happy stage where profit margin is pretty high.
Yeah.
So that's for me. And to just, yeah, so you all can roughly calculate. And I would say this though, throughout my 7 months, I probably spent almost 35% to 40% of it back into education. So outside of my like paying for my client staff and everything, right? I actually spend quite a bit on courses. Sometimes it's boot camps, sometimes it's one-to-one mentorship. Yeah, and I would sometimes I'll be throwing down 5K, 7K. Because to me that's the investment. I look at it as investment into myself, knowing that it will compound and it will bring returns in the future, right? Yeah. So have I, in terms of actual money taken back, have I matched my previous one? No, not close. If you really calculate everything. But again, I'm thinking long term, right? I will be running this for the next 2 to 3 years. So if I'm not there now, doesn't matter. I know I will get there.
Yeah, that is the growth mindset that I also want the viewers to have lah. Because a lot of people see all these kind of training boot camps, kind of like expense, right? You just pay and then you just go and attend and then you feel hyped up for a moment and that's it. These are things that you really need to execute on the action one. Then that's when the growth kind of come in. That's where you see the return on investments. Okay, because it is not tangible like stock market. You see the price rise, you won't see that immediately, but it will start to compound over time. And that's when then you realize, what we have been saying in this podcast or video may have been right all along, but you just do not realize it at this current point in time. Because your knowledge realm is currently at this level, right? You need to expand it further. Yeah. And the moment that you think you know everything, that is when you start to be complacent really.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I mean, which is why there are some things that is easier to say yes to, right? I mean, like again, the like you guys have solo biz. it's very simple. Compared to paying X amount of percentage of income tax versus 4.5%, yeah, I can make that calculation very easily and be like, yeah, I can pay you guys and I can get it started. So it's really those kind of mindset shift lah, where instead of every time you, I guess again, trading money for time, right? Or trading money for more money. That's kind of how I think about it.
Okay, I realized I forgot to ask you very, very important question. What does revenue journey do? Okay, what does your business do?
Yeah. So actually, right now, for my business, most of my clients are in the US. I won't go too much into detail, but generally speaking, at least for the software I'm consulting on, it's a lot more mature in the US in terms of you go where the market is, right? Market and demand. Supply and demand. If the demand is there, then I go where the demand is now. Revenue journey, simply put, is right now, I consult on this software called Clay, as I mentioned, clay.com. So clay.com. It's a software for go-to-market teams, revenue teams, sales teams, marketing teams, revenue operations team. So I'm a consultant. I'm going in there now and I'm guiding people how do you build what you call your go-to-market engine using this tool. So that's really my focus. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. So all these are very niche kind of thing lah. If you are an individual, you unless you are really exposed to this product, you can really go look for Asher. I've pinned his QR code right at his corner. You can go and scan and connect to his LinkedIn. He does some business sharing on that. Then for myself, my QR code is a very simple. It's just a tip mechanism. Okay, you just scan the QR code. If we answer your questions and you are satisfied with the answer, you just go and scan. It's like a tip. So now we'll head on to the Q&A session because I also have some business questions that we can discuss. But let's look at what the audience have asked first. Okay, this is a CPF question for me. Hi, Chris. Do you know if CPF interests are compounded on a monthly basis? Okay, so it is computed monthly, but only credited annually. Okay, so it is quite different from what you expect. Like bank, they compound every month, they credit every month. But CPF is computed monthly, credited annually during the 1st of Jan next year or 31st December. Okay. Actually, this question is for you first. My question to you. 200K corporate job income versus 100K own business, what to choose? Because you are in this state.
Yeah. Me being me, I'll ask a lot of questions. Firstly is how many hours am I working for each job? I'll probably ask questions around, do I need to travel a lot? Because that is counted as working time, right? Secondly is how's my manager like? How's my boss like? How is my team like? Versus my own business, which is everything I choose in a sense. Those will be the question I will ask now. And at the end of the day is, I think the point I want to drive is, there's no definite answer. I've met people who are more than happy with, like I know there will be people who are in my position which will say that like, yeah, actually I'll just stay lah. Why not? And most 看脸色嘛.看脸色, look at your manager asks you to do something, just do lah. I mean, it's just a job. And by the way, I respect some of my colleagues who say that to me. I have colleagues who work the same job as me and they say, yeah, nothing much. I can handle it. It's just a boss. Doesn't matter when I quit, after 6 p.m., I live my own life. It doesn't matter. I have to say, I respect that also. It's just, that's not for me, not for my personality. So yeah, there's no right answer. It really depends on you.
Yeah, there is really no right answer because the 200K corporate job may be very slack. Some 200K corporate job are really very slack, and then some 100K own business really work like cow like. Yeah, so unless you really know the context, then yeah, we can really answer that. This question I also wanted to ask you, Asher. Solo person or versus building a team, what would you choose or prefer for your own business?
I'll share mine. I'm actually curious about yours also, Chris.
Okay.
For me now, it's more of a situation where I want to get the profit quickly. I just want money in first. To me, solo is just much easier. Expenses are very low. You don't need to think about every month paying someone. You don't need to think about utilizing their hours and making sure that they are doing the job. You don't need to manage. If it's just about getting up and running quickly, I think solo is fine. But I do see that once I have certain system and processor in place, I might have a very lean team. I don't really have goals of building 100 people team. That's not really where I want to go. But lean team, people that I can trust with, trusted people, I don't mind. I think there's magic in being small and nimble. So that's my thing. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm curious, Chris, because YouTube is, I assume it's very much a solo thing. But now you're in a different situation. Solo base is actually a business really. I'm actually curious on your answer also.
Okay, so my take on YouTube is I'll feel that YouTube, if you're building a personal brand, right? There are there are there are personal brands that run on multiple employees team, and I do not prefer that because I don't want to be responsible for other people's livelihoods, right? So I am in a financially comfortable position right now, and I don't want to risk it, right? There will be one point in time where my YouTube channel is just not viable, not a viable business anymore, and I myself is very okay to exit the business. But what about those people who are under my payroll? I feel that it's a very difficult decision. So I am okay with hiring contractors, outsource services, but to employ people under my own team, to me, it is a very big responsibility. That unless I really want to scale it up to that kind of million subscriber YouTube channel, then yes, I understand that. But I think for YouTube channel wise, I'm really okay with doing a solo one. For solo biz wise, I'm currently doing it with my co-founder because we both have experiences in entrepreneurship and business. So right now, it's just us two building. Um, at this point in time, we don't really see a need to hire a team yet, unless the business gets so large that we need to start hiring consultants to answer the customer queries. So that is like a very late stage game, which is probably what we will not see in the first 1 to 3 years. First 1 to 3 years, we are just on the growth stage or still building the exposure. So that is a more scalable business, if I may see it. Yeah. So the difference between a personal brand business versus a corporate business, it is quite different, because the games you play are so very different. Personal brand, the whole business is tied to your identity. Whereas if you are doing like a corporate business kind of thing, you could outsource it or you can hire a team to run it if you really want to. So that is my take on it, solo versus building a team.
So what would you say for you going from a subcontractor to actually having to hire someone full time? I assume it depends on scale lah. When you reach a
Yes.
certain, okay, interesting.
Okay. The important question, how to price yourself, especially no one will tell you how you want to price your services. No one will have a textbook or show you their rate card to say, this video I should charge you how much, or this service, this clay consulting service, how much should I charge? How do you actually price yourself? Sure.
Yeah, good question. This is also something I learn as I go along. Firstly, in terms of pricing myself, you start with typical market ranges, and that is not hard to find. I mean, you can Google, you can find all these things. For example, if you are starting, let's say, a social media marketing agency, there are definitely data points out there that you can find. So start with that. Secondly, you must also know that when you're starting out, you don't have any IP, intellectual property, you don't have any niche, everything. At least really when I started out quite low pay, I think. Like I was charging 40 SGD per hour for my time, which is quite low, I feel, at least in terms of the industry's standard. But I would say in the beginning to get paid even just like a few amount to deliver a service and learn at the same time, that's not too bad of a trade-off. Yeah. But as you go, number one, if this is what I learned, every time you have a new client that, let's say, just want you for hourly work, my mentor back then taught me is that just try to increase your price by 50%. Let's try to increasing it. So I remember in the beginning, I quite aggressive. $40 I
Yes,
increased to 80. And then I increased to, let's say, 120, 60, just keep increasing, right? Until you hit a point where people are constantly rejecting you, then you know that, okay, yeah. Because if everybody say yes to you, likely your price is too low. But
correct.
if people start to, maybe you're closing at 50% rate or 40% rate, I think it's fine. Because at the end of the day, if you're a solo person, right, you also cannot take on so much client, you have capacity issue. And if you're closing at a low rate consistently, that could also mean your clients are not the right kind of clients. So actually,
Correct.
if people don't always say yes to you, it's not a bad thing. But then, okay, now that you reach the ceiling, people keep saying no to you, then how? Do you just stay there? Now I'm going to the next stage, right, which is how can I have some intellectual property? And that doesn't have to be I invent a software. It could be I have my proprietary knowledge and I know how to market it. So Chris, for example, for you, you've done this a CPA, like chartered accountant, for many years. That's your unique selling point, right? But then the question is, okay, how do you market it? Okay, now you put it into a course. Now you put it into all of these things. Now you give them value-added services. I saw on your website, like, okay, you can work with this agency. You can do. Now you are becoming more valuable. It's about this whole idea of value perception, right?
Right.
How do you value yourself? You could be still doing the same work, but the way you market it and the way you implement. Even some freelancer is like, okay, I just implement, I just do a project. But when you start to become a consultant, that means you're not just implementing things, you're actually working with them with a strategic plan, a 3-month roadmap. So things start to change really. That's the reason why like McKinsey, they at the end of the day deliver you a slide, but they can charge you millions. You know,
Yeah.
I think about that a lot as I read more business books also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting you mentioned that because I only learned this very late in this game. Like only starting of this year, I only learned more about pricing strategy because I was in the same track. I thought a good business means you have multiple clients. Everyone would come and sign contracts with you, agreement with you. And then you realize that as a solo person, you are the one tiring yourself out because your time is only so limited and you can only have a certain number of projects. So if you keep having all these projects, on one hand, your revenue looks really good, but on the other hand, you're just burning yourself out. So, like you said, I think 50% rejection rate is pretty okay, pretty normal. Because I think the education system has conditioned us that rejection is bad. Yeah. So I was very
Yeah.
afraid of rejection. Yeah, I was in this state in my earlier parts of business. I scared they reject, then how? Then only like this year I start to really look at all this business content. Then they say 50% rejection is actually totally okay. And in fact, you should raise that price so that 50% of your current clients do not want to work with you anymore. That means you're buying your time back. So you keep higher
Yeah.
quality clients and you throw away all these lower value clients, lah, which is also good for your mental health, right? So if you want
Mm.
to retire earlier or you can just take all these few high profile clients. No? So it's something only I learned
Mm.
this year, regretfully.
Yeah, and truth be told, when you come to really like dealing with high net worth clients, maybe even 20% close rate is not too bad because you
Mm.
probably, if someone is paying you so much, also means you give more time to them, right? Maybe by then you don't want to close at 50% because that would be still too much clients also. But of course, that's another topic. Like. Only you yourself know what's the good range for you. Also depends on your situation.
Yeah, and maybe you realize that those that pay better, they have less questions and they they had they interrupt you less because they also know the value of your time.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the time that's the situation. I feel
Yeah.
based on my experience.
Okay, so just to end off this live stream with the final question, Asher, because what is enough to you? I think I take that question first, right? Because recently I published this video. To me, enough is something that I think is very subjective to different households. For me, I look at household expenses. So I was doing this Excel sheet like a few years already. So I believe every personal finance person have a Excel sheet. So to me and my wife, 100K per annum spending, I think that is more than sufficient because we don't even spend at this current level. We probably only spend at less than half that level right now for both of us, right? So to us, like 100K annual expense is very suitable in 2025 value. So to me, that portfolio is somewhere between 2.5 to 3 million SGD for both of us, right? So if you want to put a number to that, that is the current number. But I understand that this number may change over time, but experience change, and you know my numbers have changed so much for the past 5 years because as I kept reading and understand from other people perspective, then maybe I don't need so much or maybe I don't need so little. So circumstances may also change. And in the past, I before I even started YouTube, right, I thought that one day I'll be so wealthy enough to pay for business class flights or first class flights. Then I realized that hey, you don't need to pay money for that. You can earn miles for that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that is like an enlightening moment that when I started all this miles redemption and hacking journey. So there are a lot of things in life. You may not reach that level to understand the mechanics behind it. And then when you realize, this is the lack of education that you had, then not all things actually cost that amount of money that you think you need. So to me, the current number is the 2.5 to 3M lah, if I want to put a number. But what is enough for you, Asher?
I think similar to you, this is really personality. Everybody has a
Mm,
different enough number. I definitely haven't looked into that level, like what 2.8 the portfolio figure yet. But I'll talk about it in terms of monthly income. It's easier to visualize. I have the base which is, as I mentioned, monthly expense. I need to have 3.5 to 4K to cover everything as of the situation right now. Whereas the ultimate goal is unlimited. Who do want to earn a
mm,
million a month? So we don't talk about that. But at least dream goal for the next 5 years, if I can have income collected 20K USD, I'm talking USD here, 20K USD, and I can work 30 hours that to me is a very good life. That's why it's at the max there. That's how I look at it. Because I feel like if you have 20K USD a month to spend, you can do a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, probably cannot spend
That's,
finish. So
cannot spend finish. And yeah, like, when you get a car, pay 2K a month also is nothing still. You still have a lot. Then you can go on more trips and all that. And then you should have sufficient. In fact, I think even if you get 10K, 15K, that's also not too bad of a number.
yeah, okay, and you're also thinking from a business perspective, right? This is not from a portfolio perspective. This is from a business income perspective.
Correct. Yeah. Literally everything, income, just money. Because to me, I
Yeah,
always look at it very simple. I care more about profit rather than revenue number. Because
yeah, yeah.
that's what I
Okay.
keep in my pocket.
Maybe I should also change my perception after this. Yeah, I'll run through myself out. Yeah, I think this has been a very educational session. We talked not just on personal finance, we also covered business. We have Asher also sharing with us his quitting of his job journey, the high figure salary, and what was his transition plan, which was similar but not so similar to mine, because the way we think based on our own background and context is really different. And I really enjoyed this conversation I had with Asher. So hopefully you all have learned something new as well from Asher. Asher, last shout out, where can they find you to learn more about you and your services?
To me, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I post my business stuff there. You can ignore that if it's not relevant to you. But sometimes I post about my own journey, just some reflection. I only do LinkedIn. Yes, I have Instagram, but I prefer to keep that private. That's my private life.
Okay,
So LinkedIn, reach out to me if you have any questions. More than happy to chat and help out. If anyone is thinking about, of course, launching their own things, we can chat about that.
definitely. And also check out Solo Biz because Asher also highlighted he's quite interested in the whole Solo Biz thing. Okay, so you can also scan both of our QR codes to support us. And yes, we will be on a little break on this live stream because yeah, I'll be quite busy lah. So next guest is probably in November already. Okay, so look forward to the next live stream session, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Thank you, Asher.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Thank
All
you.
right.